Vladimir Putin's upcoming visit to India this December isn't just another diplomatic stopover. It's a geopolitical thunderclap echoing across Washington, Brussels, and every Western capital that believed it could strong-arm New Delhi into submission. Modi and Putin are preparing to stand shoulder to shoulder in New Delhi for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit, Putin's first visit since 2021, and the timing couldn't be more dramatic. With tariffs, sanctions, and pressure campaigns intensifying, Putin landing in India is a direct challenge to the West's attempt to isolate Moscow and intimidate New Delhi. This summit is a message, a moment, and a metaphor for a world refusing to bow to Western pressure. What exactly are Modi and Putin planning to signal when they stand shoulder to shoulder in New Delhi? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. This moment doesn't exist in isolation, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. India and Russia have spent the last 3 years holding their ground under sanctions, tariffs, and relentless pressure, refusing to tear apart a partnership that has endured wars, geopolitical crises, Cold War flips, and Western displeasure. Modi and Putin last met at the SCO summit in Tianjin in China earlier this year, discussing energy, finance, and global stability while pointedly reaffirming their special and privileged strategic partnership. They've absorbed American tariffs, shrugged off European warnings, and continued talking about peace in Ukraine without condemning Moscow. But as Putin lands in Delhi for the 23rd Annual Summit, the stakes are higher than ever. Because this time, are they openly daring the West together? Western governments have been desperate to fracture the India-Russia axis, especially after India emerged as one of the biggest lifelines for Russian energy in 2025. Discounts worth billions helped India save up to $13 billion in energy costs, keeping inflation in check even as Europe struggled. Washington was the one who had asked India to step up and help stabilize the oil prices.
That India hasn't been more outspoken. But remember, Russia, as Soviet Union, was there when we weren't, so there's goodwill and history there. I've talked to so many Indians whose first foreign magazine they ever read, foreign food they ever ate was Russian. It's embedded in a generation, especially an older generation. And secondly, one of them said to me, so we've got these two big countries right on top of us, and you want us to be enemies with both of them, and you're halfway around the world? Explain that to me. So we also have to be somewhat sympathetic to understand that. And third point, they said, and by the way, because you guys wouldn't sell stuff, all of our military equipment right now is Russian. And we have existential crises on two borders. And if we're invaded tomorrow, you want us to be anti-Russian? So once you get there, we kind of got past the ability of saying, oh, just follow America. You have to do exactly as we do. And we take the smaller victories. Actually, they bought Russian oil because we wanted somebody to buy Russian oil at a price cap. That was not a violation or anything. It was actually the design of the policy, because as a commodity, we didn't want oil prices going up. And they fulfilled that. During G20, they were able to take Russia to the side and say, take or leave this statement, which was critical about Ukraine. It just took the word Russia out, but it was very clear. And we were able to deliver Europe. They were able to deliver Russia. That boxed in China. And it showed, again, this multiplicative relationship when we get there.
But 3 years hence, Washington changed its tune. Trump went so far as to slap punitive tariffs of up to 50% on Indian goods, claiming New Delhi was indirectly funding Russia's war efforts. But India didn't buckle. Instead, it defended its sovereign energy choices, exposed Western double standards, and refused to condemn Russia. Modi framed cooperation with Moscow as essential for India's economic stability, and Putin responded by praising Modi's refusal to be humiliated. This December visit is not just a summit, it's the culmination of a year-long show of defiance. New Delhi and Moscow are preparing to sign a landmark labor mobility agreement that will create structured pathways for thousands of skilled Indian workers to legally work in Russia in sectors like construction, textiles, engineering, and electronics. For Russia, it fills critical labor shortages caused by sanctions and demographic challenges. For India, it opens fresh opportunities for skilled migration in an economy hungry for global placement. And for the world, it delivers a political message. India is not afraid to deepen cooperation with a sanctioned Russia, even in sensitive areas like workforce mobility. Energy will be another thunderous signal. Even with US scrutiny pushing some Indian refiners to momentarily pause Russian oil orders for December 2025, the long-term trajectory remains unchanged. India wants stable, discounted crude, and Russia wants a reliable buyer. Modi and Putin are expected to reinforce supply mechanisms, strengthen payment pathways outside the dollar system, and explore nuclear and renewable joint ventures, making it clear that the West cannot bully New Delhi into abandoning its energy lifeline. As rupee-ruble settlements expand and local currency mechanisms gain traction, India and Russia are quietly building an alternative, sanctions-resistant financial corridor. Defense will also take center stage because despite diversification and Western pressure, Russia remains India's primary military supplier. Air defense systems, submarines, fighter jets, joint manufacturing, tech transfer programs, all of this on the table. Russia is also open to offering technology transfer for the Su-57 fifth-generation stealth fighter without restrictions, adding that any demand from the Indian side is completely acceptable. Sanctions have complicated procurement cycles and slowed joint projects, but the December summit aims to stabilize these systems, iron out disruption risks, and renew commitments to defense modernization cooperation. Washington may not like it, but India is not willing to compromise defense autonomy for geopolitical approval.
The Russian side, represented by Rosoboronexport and USC, is offering to India supply of Su-57 fighter produced in Russia, with subsequent organization of production of the aircraft in India and technology transfer. Hence, we are offering technological learning of field generation technologies, including engines, optics, AESA radar, AI elements, low signature technologies, and modern air weapons.
And as Putin meets Modi, Ajit Doval's structured discussions with Nikolai Patrushev, covering maritime security, shipbuilding, blue economy initiatives, and strategic stability, will feed directly into the summit narrative. Multi-domain cooperation, not hesitation. Every handshake, every meeting, every agreement being finalized ahead of the visit signals one thing: the relationship is expanding, not retreating. The West wanted India to distance itself. Instead, India is institutionalizing the partnership further. There's also a broader geopolitical message behind this timing. Putin's arrival in Delhi marks his first visit to India since the Ukraine war began, a symbolic reminder that Russia's Asian outreach remains alive and that India refuses to be trapped into choosing sides. Modi has welcomed peaceful efforts, called for negotiations, urged de-escalation, but has never condemned Moscow. This strategic ambiguity is now a pillar of India's foreign policy identity. The upcoming summit will amplify it for the world to see. And the multilateral chessboard matters here. Throughout 2025, Modi and Putin used SCO, BRICS, and RIC platforms to champion multipolarity, challenge Western narratives, and emphasize sovereignty. At SCO, they slammed double standards on terrorism and advocated for a security architecture independent of Western influence. At BRICS, they discussed bypassing Western-controlled financial systems, expanding Global South agency, and resisting politicization of human rights. In RIC, they pushed for Eurasian stability and reduced Western interference. These weren't isolated speeches. They were coordinated strategic messaging. And Putin's trip to India is the next chapter in that message. Western sanctions themselves have ironically tightened India-Russia ties. With Russian banks restricted from the dollar system, both countries have been forced to innovate. Rupee-ruble payments, local currency agreements, barter mechanisms, direct investments. Trade hit a record $68.7 billion in the financial year of 2024-25, 6 times higher than pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, sectors like pharmaceuticals, IT, and defense continue adapting to new financial constraints. Even disruptions cannot erase the depth of this relationship. They merely force both nations to find new routes around Western barriers. And this is why Western anxiety is peaking. For the US and Europe, Putin standing beside Modi in Delhi is more than optics. It's the unraveling of the Western expectation that India would slowly drift into their orbit. Instead, India is cementing a multipolar identity that rejects alignment and champions sovereignty. The West sanctions, India negotiates. The West demands condemnation, India calls for dialogue. The West pressures, India pushes back. Modi-Putin diplomacy is not posturing. It is a carefully calibrated assertion that India will not let others define its partnerships. Even the preparatory meetings tell a story. Jaishankar's November trip to Moscow, finalizing trade, migration, energy, and strategic agreements, signals meticulous planning and political commitment.
As it is reasonably evident, there is much that India and Russia can do for each other in promoting growth and accelerating development. What we seek to do as governments is to provide the guidance and create conditions for economic activities to take place. Clearly, much centers around trade, but there is growing willingness to contemplate more investments, joint ventures, and other forms of collaboration.
Patrushev's engagements with Indian security officials indicate deepening coordination across sensitive sectors. Every step is coordinated, deliberate, and symbolic. The summit is not being shaped by fear of sanctions, but by decades of strategic trust. As December approaches, global analysts, diplomats, and intelligence agencies are watching for one thing: how boldly Modi and Putin choose to frame their defiance. Will they signal new financial pathways, expand defense cooperation, announce stronger energy links, or simply stand together long enough for the world to see that the India-Russia partnership is immune to Western pressure? Whatever the outcome, one thing is clear: this summit is set to reshape narratives, challenge assumptions, and force the world to rethink the balance of power flowing through Delhi and Moscow. This is precisely why the West has been nervous for months. India's refusal to abandon Russian crude imports, despite US tariffs of up to 50%, has been a sore point. Trump administration expected India to bow under pressure, scale back purchases, and fall in line with sanctions. Instead, India became Russia's second-largest crude buyer in 2025. Even though refiners briefly paused some orders for December to navigate American scrutiny, India's long-term position hasn't shifted. It will buy energy from wherever it gets the best deal. Putin praises Modi openly for this stance, calling it a demonstration of sovereignty. And now, the two leaders meeting publicly in Delhi is not just diplomatic choreography, it's a direct rebuttal to Western expectations. This global context intensifies the symbolism. Ukraine remains a flashpoint, West Asian tensions are simmering, and global institutions are struggling under competing pressures. The summit will also address these issues, but not in ways the West might prefer. Modi has consistently advocated for dialogue, negotiations, and peace. His stance is humanitarian. This allows India to play a unique mediating role that neither the West nor Russia objects to. In Delhi, the two leaders are expected to discuss pathways toward de-escalation, not geopolitical blame games. India's neutrality is not passive, it is strategic autonomy in action. Multilateral platforms have only amplified the resonance of this autonomy. In SCO meetings, India and Russia have spoken about a non-Western security architecture. In BRICS, they've talked about reforming global governance, resisting politicization of human rights, and bypassing Western-dominated financial structures. In RIC, they've explored ways to keep Eurasian diplomacy outside Western intervention. None of this is accidental. It is coordinated signaling. And the summit will carry forward this messaging, that the emerging world wants options, not alignments, independence, not obedience. Security discussions preceding the summit underline how multidimensional the ties have become. When Russia's Nikolai Patrushev meets India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, they don't just talk about border threats or conventional security. They dive into maritime corridors, shipbuilding, skill development, technological ecosystems, and the blue economy. These are not scattered topics, they are pieces of a long-term strategy. India and Russia are exploring how to align in domains that shape the next decade, from ocean routes to tech innovation to workforce mobility. No sanctions list can stop countries from shaping their futures together. There's a deeper psychological and political layer to all this. Western countries have spent 3 years assuming India's partnership with Russia would weaken under global pressure. They misunderstood the fundamental nature of this relationship. India sees Russia not as a transactional ally but as a long-term strategic partner rooted in decades of trust. Soviet support during wars, assistance in early industrial development, and cooperation across space, defense, and science. Even when global politics shift, that foundation remains. The annual summits, now in their 23rd year, are not symbolic gestures. They are the architecture holding together a resilient partnership in a volatile world. And let's not underestimate the Modi-Putin personal equation. Leaders matter, chemistry matters, trust matters. When Modi says meetings with Putin are memorable and productive, and when Putin says he's always happy to meet Modi, these aren't diplomatic cliches. They reflect a genuine comfort level that smooths over geopolitical turbulence. Many global partnerships falter because leaders don't connect. India-Russia ties persist because these two leaders do. So when Putin's plane lands in New Delhi this December, the optics will be unmistakable. Two leaders standing together, two nations reinforcing sovereignty, two partners refusing to be pushed around by global power blocs. The West will analyze every gesture, every statement, every handshake for signs of alignment or defiance. And they should, because this visit is a strategic message broadcast to the world. The Modi-Putin partnership is not collapsing, it is not weakening, it is not drifting. It is adapting, deepening, and expanding despite Western attempts to corner it. The world has entered a decade defined by volatility, shifting alliances, economic coercion, power realignments, and contested geopolitical narratives. In this landscape, the India-Russia partnership offers a different model. Not alliance, not opposition, but sovereign cooperation. The December 2025 summit is a declaration of that model. A declaration that both countries will choose their partners, shape their futures, and define their interests without waiting for Western approval. If India and Russia can stand this firm under pressure, what will they dare to do next? Thank you for watching Statecraft.